Good evening. I see the time is 7:01. I'd like to call this regular council meeting to order on Monday, December 18th at 7:01 p.m. I'd like to acknowledge that we're on the traditional territory of the Stahelis. A little item of announcements before we get into the rest of the agenda. I'd just like to announce the winners of the holiday lighting contest. And there are two winners, and I think one of them, Matt D. from 831 Ming Crescent, already has their plaque, and Muddy Waters Cafe was also a winner, and I don't see anyone from Muddy Waters this evening. We'll arrange to get their plaques there, but they were the winners of the Christmas lighting contest this year. Okay. With that done, any introduction of late items? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next item on our agenda, which is the approval of the agenda.
So moved, Mayor Tallon.
Moved by Councillor Fascio, seconded by Councillor Jackson. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? And the agenda is carried unanimously. The next item is adoption of council minutes. Moved by Councillor Jackson, seconded by Councillor Vital. Any discussion on the motion to adopt the council minutes, A and B? No discussion. I'll call a vote. All in favor of adopting, and that motion carries unanimously. Takes us to item 5 on our agenda, business arising from the minutes. Is there any business that arises from the minutes today? Seeing none, I'll move on to our next item on our agenda, which is the consent agenda. Could I have a motion to have that ready?
Move, Mayor Tallon.
Moved by Councillor Fascio, seconded by Councillor Vital. Consent agenda. Is there any discussion on the consent agenda? Councillor Vital.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. I just want to refer to page 12, which is the second page of the minutes of the Accessibility Committee. Item C on Moby mats. And the minutes read that there was some discussion on the current Moby mats on the beach. I just wanted to offer a little bit of clarification that when those Moby mats were installed, they were not restricted just to individuals who needed to be accommodated in wheelchairs. The idea of the Moby mats was really for anyone who needed access further down to the water, including young families who perhaps had infants or toddlers in strollers, people who perhaps walked with a cane, or even for those families that you see them now, the wagons that they bring with them for all of their stuff to bring down to the beach. So I just wanted to go through you, Mayor Tallon, to our staff, just to find out if they're aware of any complaints or concerns on the use of the Moby mats. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Vital. The CAO?
Thank you, Your Worship. To my knowledge, we haven't received any complaints. I do believe that they do get used quite often by families, like you noted, and with strollers and or wagons. And we've seen lots of associations come with people that that have mobility challenges and down on the water. And so far, we've seen them used quite regularly without any complaint.
Thank you, CAO. Councillor Vital?
Thank you, and through you again, Mayor Talon, to our CAO. If I remember correctly, this issue had come up before, and I believe it came up in a previous committee of the whole. And I'm not aware if it was referred back to staff for some further information. So I'm going to defer to our corporate officer if she could kind of refresh my memory on what the history was of that. Thank you.
CAO or corporate officer, can you fill in?
Thank you. Through you to Councillor Vital. Yes, so at the November, I can't recall the exact date, but November 2023 Committee of the Whole meeting, there was a motion that was passed to refer replacements for the Moby mats back to staff. And I believe there was some discussion at the council table regarding a wooden boardwalk instead of Moby mats.
Thank you, corporate officer. Councillor Vital?
All right, thank you, corporate officer. So that kind of will be forthcoming in the future then with some kind of research. Yeah, I'm actually quite happy with the Moby mats that are there. I think they have worked well, and you know, I'll wait till it comes back to council, but at this point I don't see the need for replacement of them. So thank you, Mayor Talon.
Thank you, Councillor Vital. Further discussion? I see none. I'll call the vote on accepting the consent agenda. All in favor? And that carries unanimously. Delegations and petitions. Are there any tonight? I don't believe so. Corporate officer or CAO? No delegations or petitions, which takes us to correspondence, item 8 on our agenda. Could I have a motion to have this recommended or read in? Moved by Councillor Jackson, seconded by Councillor Schweinbenz. Any discussion on the correspondence? Councillor Schweinbenz.
Thank you, Mayor Talon. I really enjoyed the poster that was done. And I'm wondering if maybe as council or as a village, we could engage the students at the local school to do something similar. It'd be kind of neat to get them involved in their environment and in their village, and we need to see something from them. So that's that. On the second correspondence, I found it interesting, given the news of the last couple of weeks, what's happening at the federal level. I read with interest some of the border changes and changes in security that the federal government are doing in the next, that they're planning in the next little while as a response to some of the changes in the US. And maybe this is a question for either the CAO or some of my more learned colleagues. Do we have, as a village, have the opportunity to go to more senior levels of government, maybe through our local MP or MPPs, to try and give them our opinion about some of this stuff, or to try to advance and advocate for changes at the federal or more senior levels?
Thank you, Councillor Schweinbenz. CAO, can you give some guidance or maybe some input on that?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Councillor Schweinbenz. I think it's been mentioned before when we're looking for change at the provincial or federal level that it typically starts with your local government association, which would be the LGLA. That a motion would come from this council with the approval to the LGLA, and whether there's support from the LGLA to move it on to UBCM, and then if UBCM supports it, of course it is, if it is under federal jurisdiction, they would refer it up. Perhaps Councillor Vital might be able to add some more clarity to that.
Thank you, CAO. Councillor Vital, are you with your work on the...
Thank you, Mayor Talon. Yes, by all means, resolution could be drafted and approved by council here to be forwarded to Lower Mainland, LGA in May. I believe the deadline for resolutions is the end of February. I'm not 100% sure, but I will get clarity on that. And probably after Christmas, we should, early in the new year, start looking at constructing resolutions that we would like to be heard at Lower Mainland LGA. Again, once it needs to be approved by council here and then approved by the resolution committee at Lower Mainland LGA. But another thought is this may also be a good topic for discussion at our Let's Mont Community to Community Forum. Often MLAs and MP Brad Viss or a representative from his office does attend. So if you'd like, I'll look more into that further. But yeah, I think that that would be also another avenue to bring it up. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Vital. Councillor Fasher.
Thank you, Mayor Talon. May I suggest that as Councillor Vital mentioned C2C, that we do have a meeting with them in January. This could be part of the agenda discussion as well. Thank you, because they are very involved in this, and I was involved with them in Vancouver 2 or 3 years ago regarding the UNDRIP. So it's, I think something should come through the C2C and then through council and then through LMLGA through a resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Vital. CEO Cook.
Yes, forgive me, Your Worship. We're actually just at the receipt portion, so if there's any discussion, further discussion, we should do it after we receive it. Please and thank you.
Thank you. I'm taking from this that Councillor Schweinbenz, to your comment before we receive all this, is it seems to be a summary of things start at the grassroots at a local government level, and the more support we get going up, it grabs the attention of other levels of government as it proceeds. So maybe we can entertain a motion to consider that after we deal with the motion to receive the correspondence. I would like to, because I'd like to suggest that we thank the students of the school in Salmon Arm for this wonderful piece of artwork. And I'm going to note the time, 7:13, so they don't have to watch the whole council meeting, as the artist who did this can skip to 7:13 on our agenda and see that their artwork was duly received by council. Can I call the vote on receiving this and then make some motions afterwards? Call the vote, all in favor of accepting the correspondence, and that passes unanimously. Councillor Schweinbenz, you'd like to make a motion, I believe, to do some work to draft some sort of resolution for council.
First on the poster, sure, thank you, Mayor Talon. I found it ironic that it was in blue, and in their description, they said that it's always seems to be sunny in Harrison. That's not the case this past week, that's for sure, but in the summer, definitely. I love the eagle, and I love the sun and the connection to the water and the sky. So I would move, if we could, to reply to these students, write them a kind letter, and thank them for the poster, and to keep up the good work.
Councillor Schweinbenz is moving to a reply to the students and School of Salmon Arm. Is there a seconder to that motion? Seconded by Councillor Vital. Any discussion on drafting a reply? Councillor Fasher.
Just a quick suggestion, Mayor Talon. I'm a great advocate for promoting the village, like all of us are, but I always carry a bunch of pins in my pocket. I would suggest that we send a few pins as well to the school. The coveted Harrison pin. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fascio. I'm sure that can be possible. All in favor of sending a reply with pins? Thank you. That carries unanimously. Councillor Schweinbenz, is there another motion concerning a resolution on the other piece of correspondence?
Actually, just to carry on with this thought on the poster as well, perhaps someone from the village could contact the teachers of the senior grades here at the local school and encourage them to have maybe a flag contest or a poster contest that celebrates our village.
CAO Cook?
Thank you, Your Worship. We're always looking for fun things for the community to take care of. Perhaps it's something we could include through our Get Into It Harrison, and we could reach out to the school and see if they're interested to participate.
Thank you, CAO. I thought there would be a motion to draft a resolution. Is there one coming, Councillor Swinevans, or that moment passed?
No, thank you, Mayor Tallon. So I would move that we direct staff to contact the school to see if they would be interested in a flag or poster contest, and we could, or staff could adjudicate, or the public could adjudicate from the submissions that we receive.
Okay. I don't know if we did a motion to do that, but I think staff took away notes that during regular engagement with the school, we'll let them know that we're always open to ideas they have. No further motions. We're on our next agenda item, which is business arising from correspondence. Anything arising from the correspondence? I think we already did that. I think we skipped ahead. That's probably why our CAO is getting confused. Any additional business arising from the correspondence? Seeing none, I'll move on to reports from mayor and staff. Reports from mayor first this week. Okay. Happy to report I've attended a couple of events. Oh, I'm sorry. I read that wrong. Councillors, please. I'm going to be much better in the new year. Reports from councillors. Councillor Fascio.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a few reports here. At the Fraser Valley Regional District, they were on the 12th of December, they were celebrating 29 years of becoming the FVRD after being the Shem Alouette for many years. And just got to find the pages, excuse me. There was a year-end report from the floodwater mosquito control season year-end report, and just quickly I'll read here. Seasonably warm weather and above average precipitation within contributing basins in 2024 led to official seasonal peak of the Lower Fraser River on the 2nd of July at 3.07 meters. 2.46 meters lower than in 2023 peak. Peak arrived early, 4 weeks later in 2023. Lower Fraser River levels never exceeded 5 meters in 2024. Therefore, necessary environmental cues needed for the hatching of floodwater mosquitoes at some associated sites were never received. Lower Fraser River levels did not trigger a compounded number of floodwater mosquito eggs to hatch since peak river levels were far below those of 2023. So that was a good year. Hopefully it'll stay that way. And the park inspection policy from the regional parks, that's page 52, lots of pages for the regional district. Park amenity inspection. In addition to the general park inspections, there are amenity-specific inspections which are carried out as follows. The annual inspection will be completed by a bike park expert. That's where they have their bike skills park. Cascades Fall Suspension Bridge annual inspection, and playgrounds. wildlife danger tree and assessments are carried out by the Fraser Valley Regional Parks Department, and annual inspections of parks, trails, and facilities will be inspected upon a complaint basis and after a major weather event as the time and resources permit. So that's how they carry out their inspection. Of course, that includes our East Sector Park. The Accessibility Committee meeting of the 11th of December, we introduced our two new members, Michelle DeMartin and Geraldine Maylott. A very good discussion by all. They were forwarding some budgets regarding and of course, has been posted on our Facebook site. Congratulations to our staff for applying for the $25,000 grant for the accessibility. That's just great news. And questions came up about washroom facilities, especially those for folks who need special care with both a female and male or vice versa. Hand bars, handrails, the Moby mats came up. And just to go back to the Moby mats, I did make the suggestion of having the boardwalk style of, instead of Moby mats. And I believe the report came back from staff that it probably wasn't that feasible, and the maintenance and the slippery surfaces. So I took it that was off the table. So at the Accessibility Committee, we did ask for the budget deliberations that Moby mats should be installed in Randall Park, and the extra one on the lagoon as well. We only have one there at the moment on one side of the new ramp. And other areas, of course, is more for infrastructure when it calls for more letdowns for those with disabilities, and looking at areas for more handicap parking. So the staff got this pretty well in hand, and there'll be some suggestions coming forward at the budget deliberations. That's on accessibility. A little bit of sad news. A former colleague of mine in the RMI, the mayor of Sun Peaks, Al Rain, passed away. Al was a great advocate, as was Josie Osborne, now a Minister of Health, for keeping the RMI, hotel tax as it was called at the time, going, and keeping us together as 14 resort communities, and making sure that we had many meetings, especially the one at UBCM, where we've met with ministers to make sure that the resort monies were going to keep coming through in their normal way, instead of trying, at one point was suggested, to a funding source. So that was thrown away. But he was a great guy, Al Rain, and he's like all of us, he loved his community, and I believe he was the first mayor of Sun Peaks. So I would, if I may, with your permission, Your Worship, I'd like to have a letter sent to the Council of Sun Peaks and to the family, sending our deepest condolences on his loss. So I'd like to make that motion, if I may.
Moved by Councillor Fascio, seconded by Councillor Jackson. Discussion on that? None. Call the vote. All in favor of that letter? That's approved unanimously.
And my last, I'll do it now because I've only got a chance at the end of the meeting. I want to wish all our residents and businesses a very happy Christmas and a prosperous New Year. And as a special thank you, maybe this is unusual, but I thought I would do it because I felt like doing it. And as a special thank you from me personally, I'd like to thank our Mayor Tallon and our Councillor Schweinbenz, who have come on board recently, and thank you for the way you have both come on council right away, fitted in and respected the three of us and our staff. This was very gratifying after 18 months of unfortunate turmoil. many good things are happening in our community since you've come on board and working with us three. And we're really looking forward to another great 2 years. Thank you very much, both of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Fascio. Councillor Vital.
Thank you, Mayor Talon. On December 7th, I had the pleasure of attending the Dickens Tea, which is an annual fundraiser for the Historical Society. I always thoroughly enjoy that event. It was sold out, and it kind of just sets off Christmas with the Dickens Tea. December 10th, I did attend an in-camera meeting with council. December 13th, I attended a meet and greet meeting with our new MLA, Tony Luck. Council had the opportunity to update the MLA on the needs of our community and managed to get in some future funding requests. December 14th, I attended the annual Christmas banquet and awards night for our fire department members, and I want to extend a thank you to Chief Genest and their events committee for an outstanding evening, and offer my sincere congratulations to all the award recipients. On December 16th, on behalf of Mayor Talon, I attended the virtual meeting of the Resort Communities Coalition and was accompanied by CAO Cook. These group members represent the 14 resort communities in the province. We had the opportunity for a roundtable discussion with the new Minister Herbert, the newly appointed Minister of Tourism, Arts, Culture, and Sport. I had the opportunity, and I took it, to certainly emphasize the need for continued RMI funding, especially for smaller resort communities, to ensure the ongoing experiences for our tourists and visitors. I thank the Minister for the province's previous funding and highlighted some of our RMI projects over the last 3 years. And today, I attended a pizza lunch. And just a small gratitude from council to our staff, inside and outside workers, for their contributions to the village throughout this year. And that's my report, Mayor Talon. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Vital. Councillor Jackson.
Thank you, Worship. I attended a meeting with, excuse me, please, Tony Luck. I was very happy to be there. I think maybe he's going to bring a fresh air to politics, which we certainly need with all the kerfuffle that's going on in Ottawa now. It's a dog and pony show. However, on Saturday night, my wife and I attended the Harrison Fire Department ball. And we were so impressed with what we saw that night, with all the young people that have come up to be volunteer firefighters and the way it's organized. We walked out of there maybe 10 feet tall. We didn't expect what we saw, but I must admit I am so grateful that through the leadership of the Harrison Fire Department and our CAO and group, they've done such a magnificent job. And again, a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to everyone, and thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Councillor Swinbands.
Thank you, Mayor Talon and council and staff. On December 11th, I attended an RCMP meeting. They hadn't met us yet, so I was very impressed that the superintendent for the region, and I can't remember his name, came along with Andy in their uniform dress and spoke with Mayor Talon and I. We talked about staffing issues, and I think they've got a great plan for next year. They've got 3 new recruits coming in time because these new recruits have to get, there's some that are just finishing their training and some that are still selling their real estate in the interior. So I think that's fantastic. We talked about some crime issues, and we also talked about water safety, and that's maybe something as a village we could look at in the spring with regards to water safety. Same day, I attended the Harrison Agassiz Historical Society. I wasn't able to make it to the Dickens Tea like Councillor Vidal, but they've got a lot going on there. I was there this past Saturday, and they had a big Christmas event going on. The Grinch was there, and a bunch of different Disney characters were there. And they had 600 people go through that museum on Saturday alone, and I think the same thing happened on Sunday. The place is resplendent with lights, and it looks fantastic. It's really, they really have a lot of new initiatives going on. At our meeting, Maria, the new manager, mentioned that she's meeting with the District of Kent this spring, and I invited her along, if you don't mind, to give us, as a delegation, to come and give us a presentation on some of their new initiatives this spring to us as well. So I think the paperwork is being filled out. On the 13th, I again met with Tony Luck, like the rest of us, our new MLA. We talked about, I raised a few things such as healthcare and forestry reform and bike paths and pathways and the need for different water rights and riparian rights. I'm not so sure that he and I met on an ideological level, but it was great to meet him, and I'm glad that he took the time to meet with us. And interestingly, his constituency office is going to be 10 minutes away in Agassiz. So I think that's fantastic for us. On Saturday, I was honored to be part of the gala, the Fireman's Gala. And like Councillor Jackson and the other councillors have mentioned, it was such a fun night to see the leadership of Chief Ganest and Deputy Chief Malhot, the new recruits, some of whom, by the way, have been promoted to different departments and to the BC Wildfire Service as well. The enthusiasm, the fun, the camaraderie, it was such a good night. They turned this place into a rock and roaring party, which went on till pretty early in the morning. So that was loads of fun. And I'm not so sure that this village realizes just how lucky we are to have a fire department that looks after us and keeps us safe. They're very, very dedicated people, as are their spouses who give up a lot of time when their partners are away. And also, just to echo what Councillor stated with regards to me coming on board, I really appreciate the welcome. Campaigning in this community was the most fun I've had in years. Going door to door, meeting so many people, hundreds of people, and everybody was very open to new ideas and to embracing some of the values that I have. And I can tell you that it's been a long time since I've been so engaged emotionally and ignited intellectually. So I appreciate the community welcoming us on board. And one of the, at this time of year, we think about things that we're grateful for. And I'm grateful to be here today with this experienced council and amongst this staff that is so dedicated and so skilled and talented. So those are the things that I'm grateful for. On a closing note, on a personal note, Julie and I have sold the Rocky Mountain Chocolate Factory. So by the end of January, will be that property or that business will be sold. The good news is the owners of Muddy Waters, Richard and Jenny and their son, are taking it over. They're going to take it to a next level. They're going to make it even better than we have. We've had so much fun over the last 6.5 years looking after that business from our dear friend Frank, who passed away 6 years ago. And thank you to the community for your support, and please continue to support it. It's a terrific business, and it is great to see so many people come into the store with a smile on their face. That's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Swinevance. I think that concludes this. Are there any reports from committees, committee of the whole, or commissions? Seeing none, reports from mayor. I'll do that. On December 5th, I must say, the hardest part of this job so far has been learning acronyms. And RCC, I have heard it explained as an acronym at least 3 discrete ways, but it was the pre-meeting to the meeting Councillor Vital, as deputy mayor, attended earlier this week. Resort Community Councils, Commission, Collaborative. I've heard Collaborative, Resort Community Collaborative. Thank you. I'm going to write those down. I attended that on December 5th. December 10th, I attended a Chamber of Commerce meeting, the Agassiz Harrison Chamber of Commerce. It was an interesting meeting. I put a good plug in for people to come out on Friday when we do our grand opening for the accessible playground on the beach at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And had a couple opportunities to ring bells for the food bank contributions that Freddie Marks has been organizing. And December 14th, yes, the firefighters' year-end Christmas party and awards ceremony was in Memorial Hall. I think it was the ideal place for that kind of event. And I was impressed as well with our firefighting troop. And I think it speaks volumes that there are a number of new recruits and that the foundation and the training our recruits and our firefighters get makes them desirable for other fire departments to poach and to move on to other opportunities. So it just speaks volumes to me that there's such a close group and a real sense of camaraderie, and that the training and the foundation they get is desirable for others. So we're in very good hands, I think, and well served by our firefighters. And that is the report I have for tonight. Which takes us to item 12, reports from staff, and I'll turn it over to the CAO.
Thank you, Your Worship. We'll pass it on to Corporate Officer. She has a report dated December 18th, 2024.
Thank you. Many subjects requiring the confidentiality of a closed meeting only require it for a limited period of time. Information that would no longer undermine the reason for discussing it in a closed meeting should be released as soon as practicable. At the November 25, 2024 special closed council meeting, council reviewed and approved the draft 2025 to 2027 collective agreement. And on November 28, 2024, the union voted in favor of accepting the agreement. Land use planning consultant contract. The village has retained KWC Planning Services, Ken Cossey, to provide land use planning consultant services since 2016. The contract is set to expire at the end of this year and does not contain a renewal clause, and therefore on November 4th, staff posted a request for proposals. One addendum was issued during the bidding period. At the close of the RFP on November 25th, the village had received 4 proposals from the Right Direction Inc., Urbanix Consultants, KWC Planning Services, and WSB Canada. A resolution of council was required to award the contract, and council considered staff's evaluation of the proposals received and resolved to enter into a contract with KWC Planning Services for 1 year with the option to renew for an additional year. Moving on to communications and community engagement coordinator position. Staff have been working proactively to provide more communications and community service programming to the public. During the last 6 months, staff launched many key initiatives, including increasing the amount of public-facing communication, creating an Instagram page, and relaunching Get Into It Harrison, creating a new residence guide, and overall modernization of the look and feel of outward communications. The above initiatives, level of communication and public engagement that council and the public expects require an additional position to be created. This position is a key contributor to grant implementation, FireSmart program administration, and committee support with a focus on recreation programming and citizen events. The population of the village has grown steadily in recent years, placing additional demands on staff to continue providing a high level of service to the public and manage the ever-changing way that residents interact with the organization. To continue this increased level of service, council resolved to create a new exempt position of communications and community engagement coordinator. So the recommendation is that the following closed meeting resolutions from the November 25th and December 10, 2024 special closed council meetings be received for information. that council approve the 2025-2027 QB 458 collective agreement, that the land use planning consultant contract be awarded to KWC Planning Services, that staff be authorized to negotiate and enter into a contract on behalf of the village with KWC Planning Services for a period of 1 year, with the option to renew for 1 additional year, and that council approve the creation and wage rates for an exempt communications and community engagement coordinator position.
So moved, Mayor Talon.
Seconded, Mayor Talon.
Moved by Councillor Fascio, seconded by Councillor Vital. Any discussion to the motion? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? And that carries unanimously. Corporate officer or CAO for the next item?
Next item is item B. I have a report regarding the FVRD Air Quality Management Service Area Merger and Establishment Bylaw.
Please proceed.
Recommendation, Mayor.
Moved by Councillor Fascio, seconded by Councillor Jackson. Discussion on this. Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? And that is accepted unanimously. I believe Corporate Officer, you have the next item.
The next item is item C, which is another report that I have here regarding surf lakes. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Thank you. In June of this year, council received correspondence, which is attached to the report, regarding a company called Surf Lakes. The Surf Lakes was referred to a committee of the whole, and later that month, it was referred back to staff for more information. Surf Lakes is one of several companies in the emerging industry of mechanically creating waves for surfing. Their technology runs completely on electricity and uses a hydraulic system to move a 1,400-ton plunger up and down, 4.2 to 5.5 meters, to displace water and create waves, ranging from 1.8 to 2.4 meters in height. The company has 1 licensee in Australia and 8 in the southern United States, although none of them appear to be completely constructed and open to the public as of yet. Licensees must find suitable locations and enter into an agreement to obtain the use of the technology. Surf Lakes then provides the design and construction of the surf lake, expertise for assembly and installation, advice regarding operation and performance monitoring once construction is complete. Based on the intake form on their website, at least 5 hectares of land and 80 megaliters of water is required to operate a surf lake. The lagoon is not large enough to accommodate a surf lake, as the estimated amount of water in the lagoon on average is approximately 27.8 megaliters. Additionally, the village has a non-exclusive license of occupation with the province over the foreshore area, and this use is specific to public recreation and enjoyment and moorage buoys purposes. As part of the license, the village cannot construct, place, anchor, secure, or affix any improvement in, on, to, or into the land. If the village were to pursue the idea of creating a surfable area within the current area of its license of occupation, it would either have to amend the license of occupation with the province or apply for a separate tenure. Staff reached out to one of the environmental consulting firms that work with the village often, who advised that such a license is likely to be a first in BC and would therefore be a challenge to obtain. According to an article in The Observer, this past August, there's a surf park set to open in nearby Bridal Falls using a different wave creating technology. And additionally, there is a large-scale development project proposed near Squamish, again with a different type of technology. These projects are not comparable to Harrison Hot Springs, given that the proposed surf parks are self-contained treated pools of water and not subject to the same tenure requirements with the province. The lagoon would have to be made larger to accommodate this, and therefore staff do not feel that it's feasible, especially given that a surf park is planned to be created nearby. However, if council would like to pursue the matter, staff would recommend that village retain a consultant to conduct a feasibility study. And so the recommendation is that the corporate officer's report dated December 18, 2024 regarding surf lakes be received for information.
Moved by Councillor Vital, seconded by Councillor Jackson. Discussion on the motion. Councillor Swinbands.
Thank you, Mayor Talon. Yeah, my neighbor here in Harrison is involved in this company. It's based in Australia. I think they were here perhaps a couple of years ago, giving a presentation. And I can see why at this time it'll be difficult to make that lagoon into a surf park. I think it aligns with what we're trying to do as a village, that is get more high-value users here, more high-value tourists here, but I can see why the environmental constraints of the village and erosion and the amount of water probably wouldn't be at this point in time, given the technology and the political reality, probably wouldn't work. But I'm hoping we're not saying no to this forever. Hopefully, if technology changes, if policies change, maybe we can look at this in a few years.
Thank you, Councillor Swinebenz. It's an interesting idea. I'm not sure it's a good fit for Harrison Hot Springs and the lagoon at this time. And from what I read of the material, I don't have a complete sense about what the impact of this project would be. Waves in the lake, what the machine would look like that would generate the waves. There's a lot of questions, but maybe the technology evolves and maybe there's a demonstration project somewhere that would allow a future council more time to, a little more information to consider it. Councillor Vital?
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. I also think it's worth noting that the lagoon is multi-use right now, and I would not like to see our fountain or its infrastructure have to be removed for something of this magnitude of a surf city. And the lagoon is, like I said, is used for other purposes with both residents and our visitors, including swimming. And often you'll see even small kayaks or paddle boards out there. So I think I share your comment that I don't think at this point it would be a good fit for our lagoon. Thank you.
Any other discussion on this? Councillor Jackson?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just one thing, I'm going to go way back to the Schellenberg report that we had done on the lagoon. And the long-term vision was to reduce the size of the lagoon, perhaps by maybe 2/3. So because Harrison does lacks land, and lacks land for families and maybe even sports. And then on the west end of the lagoon, turn that into a nice public heated pool. That was the original plan, and I think as our finances get better and more grants come along, I believe that's the type of thing that we really should be looking at for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Councillor Swinebenz?
Thank you. Like I said, the CEO emailed me earlier and just said that this would be a public-private partnership. It would be just the village putting money into it. But I do like Councillor Jackson's idea. We've long wished that there was some sort of way to put the springs back in Harrison Hot Springs. We heard that all during the campaign. And I like the heated pool idea. Perhaps if we get our water license sorted out and we realize how much water we could procure from the hot springs itself, from the resort, perhaps a hot pool somewhere out there would be a good idea. Something like the Spa Skandinav. Thank you.
Councillor Fascio?
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. Fully agree with Councillor Jackson that it should be halved and put some, but just for a quick bit of history, we did have a gentleman many years ago who lived in Harrison who had investors from Germany who wanted to put $1 billion into that lagoon to put in a Olympic-sized swimming pool, hot tubs, covered, and it opens up in the summer. But like we say at times, bureaucracy gets in the way, and there was environmental permission set up and never got past Victoria. So, but that was the plan at the time. But this had the money to do it, but not the okay to do it.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Fascio. Well, it sounds like there's been no shortage of people thinking about things and ways to improve the lagoon or make it more usable. It's interesting. Seeing no further discussion, I'll call the vote on the motion, and that carries unanimously. Next item, Corporate Officer.
Thank you. Moving on to bylaws, we have a report of planning consultant regarding 260-270 Esplanade Avenue zoning amendment bylaw.
Mr. Cossey.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd just like to mention before we get started that this has got nothing to do with the development permit. That was conditionally approved on September the 9th, 2024. This is a rezoning application, two separate but interrelated issues. The proponents have made an application to change various zoning requirements to this site because they need to accommodate a 72-unit hotel and a 4,000 square foot restaurant, which would seat 33 individuals. To do so, the floor area ratio, or the FAR, needs to be changed from 1.5 to 1.62, the building height from 15 meters to 20 meters, the lot coverage from 75% to 95%. Council authorized staff to set up a public hearing and to refer the zoning amendment bylaw 1209-2024 to various agencies at the September 9, 2024 regular council meeting. Now that we've collected all of that information, we're bringing it back for council's summary and review and whatever direction the council wishes to go with it. The site is located at 260-270 Esplanade. The site is currently serviced and is located adjacent to a major roadway that moves traffic in a west to east direction. The site consists of two parcels, one with the civic address of 260 Esplanade and the other with the civic address of 270 Esplanade. The site is surrounded by commercial uses along the southern, western, and eastern boundaries of the site. The southern portion of the site also abuts against Littlewood Avenue. The site is designated as Village Center area. So because of that, we don't need to do a redesignation. And the form and character permit was issued conditionally on September 9, 2024. The public hearing was held on November the 4th, 2024, and the comments from the referral agencies have also been received, and they've been broken out into the subcategories as identified on page 44. The referral agencies, the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure, or MOTI, the provincial requirements of a 4.5 meter setback is applicable. The applicant has appealed this requirement, and MOTI has reduced that requirement down to 2 meters. The village's fire department, no concerns. The Advisory Planning Commission suggested the following, as outlined on page 57 of the report. There's various bullets there. One of them being a shade study, a crime prevention through environmental design report, an infrastructure impact analysis, and exploring rainwater recycling, explore putting the first floor underground to reduce the overall height, a traffic impact analysis, and careful consideration of the design guidelines in regard to this development. This is more of a development permit issue, and the council or the APC was not asked to comment on that. They've just put that in there as their own separate or part of the motion. So the written submissions received, and we can only address land use issues only, floodplain issues, and please note that this has been addressed in the development permit stage. What are the impacts to the village's sewer and water systems being requested prior to final adoption, as we'll see when we get into the recommendations. No servicing agreement, and this is also being requested prior to final adoption, and a shade area. A study being requested prior to final adoption. And also as part of the referral process, written submissions were allowed as per the normal requirement when you have a public hearing, and the comments from there again addressing just the land use issues was a sun shade study, no beautification, lack of streetscape, and lack of community amenities. And I'd just like to point out, assuming that it costs approximately $50,000 to construct an above ground parking stall, the village may be receiving 31 extra stalls at no cost to the village. And this is a community amenity that could be worth up to $1.5 million, assuming that the current design is still applicable, and this is all, then that is subject to MOTI requirements with the setback, their setback requirements. Some of the additional comments I've received, if approved, this is a precedent. This is not true. If you'll see that on page 48, the second bullet from the bottom, there's talking about the precedent being created, and this will allow all the other developers to do this. That's not how it works. This is a discretionary power of council. That means you have the ability to accept it, reject it, amend it, whatever. Just because it happened on one side of the street or on adjacent to me does not mean it has to happen again. That this is different from the mandatory requirements that says in the Local Government Act that you must pass a bylaw. Nowhere in the Local Government Act does it say that you are required to issue a permit or you are required to accept a rezoning application. That becomes a discretionary power, and that's not covered by precedent by any stretch of the imagination. The OCP stipulates that Little Wet Avenue not be turned into a back alley, as outlined in section 5.42A of the OCP policy. This is, again, not true. What stipulates there is only commercial developments or developments with a strong commercial focus would be supported on properties fronting Esplanade and Little Wet Avenue between St. Alice Street and Maple Street. This application is proposing a 72-unit hotel and restaurant, and both land uses are considered commercial developments. So with that, Your Worship, staff is recommending that zoning amendment bylaw number 1209-2024 be given third reading, and that zoning amendment 1209-2024 be adopted subject to the following. The applicant entering into a works and services agreement to address the servicing of the site and frontage improvements include a sidewalk, curb and gutter from Maple Street to Hot Springs Avenue on Little Wet Avenue. The two sites are consolidated into a single lot. The village's receipt and acceptance of a report prepared by a competent professional with at least 10 years of professional experience and accepted by the village that addresses an estimate on the demand to be generated by the proposed development of water and sewer services, and in the case of any phase development, by each phase of the development. An analysis of the existing community water and sewer systems, outlining the options available for the supply and delivery of water and the provision of sewer services to the proposed development. An estimation of the volume of additional surface water drainage that could be generated by the proposed development and the options available for on-site retention or absorption. In addition to exploring the potential for rainwater recycling. Identifies, if applicable, the new capital works required for the proposed development of water, sewer, and the drainage systems, and their costs and the potential funding sources for these expenditures. The village's receipt and acceptance of the following: a traffic impact study that provides estimates on the number of additional vehicle trips per day generated by the proposed development, and in the case of phase development, by each phase of the development. The impact report must identify, if applicable, any highway upgrading, reconstruction, reconfiguration, or expansion to the highways that may be necessary in order to accommodate the current or any additional vehicle trips per day generated by the proposed development. And this includes the construction of or alterations to the intersection, turning lanes, merge lanes, traffic lights, and pullout area, and cost estimate to perform the works and services. A crime prevention report through environmental design, a report outlining how this development will be reducing their overall carbon imprint, and a sunshade study reflecting various dates and times. Normally these types of reports can be upwards of 3, 4, 5, upwards of to even a year, but they're done at certain time periods, or various time periods and various dates across the spectrum. They're not just generally done in one afternoon. You have to look at the overall. And as far out as you can go for the inclusion of the sun and shade study, the better the information is that's been generated. So that's the report, Your Worship, and anything that has been identified as a land use issue, Council has the authority to bring it in as part of their requirements.
Thank you, planning consultant. It's a very big motion. Just as an observation, I've spent a lot of time with this material and the material that was considered at the September 9th meeting before myself and Councillor Schweinbenz were in office. And I think it'd be fair to say I've poured through that, and I'd like to thank staff for being patient and explaining how we're coming in and how this decision is part of a series of decisions for this project, this proposed project. And I don't want to say a bit of a disadvantage, but it's coming in a little bit midstream with some decisions made and some before us today and some other things down the road. So it's not a criticism, it's just a bit of a challenge to get my head around this, and I appreciate the patience and time staff have given myself, and I believe Councillor Schweinbenz as well, to get us current and up to speed and understand the nature of the decision before us. There are several sections to the recommendation, and it's been suggested to me that we break this into smaller pieces and then do a summary wrap-up at the end so we don't lose track of motions to amend the various aspects if we're considering that on the various elements here. So with that, I wonder if, Corporate Officer, would you be able to start us off with the first part that we could consider as a motion? Does that make sense? And then keep track, and so we can do a wrap-up with all or any amendments to the motion as they arise.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. I think if you would like to kind of break it into just the sections, so the first motion would be that zoning amendment bylaw number 1209/2024 be given third reading and be adopted subject to the following: the applicant entering into a works and services agreement to address the servicing of the site, and just kind of discuss item A, and then move through the pieces one at a time, and I will keep track of the amendments.
Thank you, Corporate Officer. So could I have a motion to that effect, that we're considering the A part of the amendment bylaw? Councillor Schweinbenz? Moved by Councillor Schweinbenz, seconded by Councillor Vital. Discussion on this. I think this is an important one, and one that I've spent a fair bit of time thinking about. I think some of the comments from the public hearings about the impact on Littlewood Avenue do resonate with me. And I note that here we're talking about improvements, which I think are would be helpful to the sidewalk, curb, and gutter. I would like to add to that list also landscaping. That's part of it. I think it's a very tall building. The side on Littlewood has the entrance to the parkade. And for me, having landscaping part of that would be of some value. And I'd also like to see what that landscaping looks like, because as I understand it, we're getting some advice and doing some planning for Littlewood Avenue West on the other side of the intersection that will involve landscaping and other things for the trees that had to be taken down earlier this year. So I'd like to sort of consider Lillooet and landscaping from a little larger lens, ultimately, but I'd like the landscaping to be part of that. Maybe I'll stop there and open the floor to other comments and discussion on item A. Councillor Schweinbenz.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. Yeah, I agree with you. I think the Achilles heel of this project, I think it's going to be a good project. I think the Achilles heel, though, is the backyard of it. Facing Lillooet, I agree with some of the comments that I've heard from the public. Many people have approached me saying that having 3 floors of open parking is not suitable for Lillooet. In the absence of some screening that perhaps could be done architecturally, then I agree with Mayor Tallon. There should be some imaginative landscaping, perhaps some tall conical trees, rain gardens, something that can take the visual focus off of the open parking lot and onto the a new sidewalk and a better aesthetic, a better landscaping aesthetic there. So I would move that that we include landscaping and including tall trees to the liking of council on section A. Thank you.
Or because, sorry, I,
There we go. Councillor Fascio.
thank you, Your Worship. Just a question through you to our planning consultant. Does not the landscaping come under another process later on?
Normally, that comes under the works and services, but at this specific time, I think it'd be appropriate to make reference to a landscaping plan. I'm used to it being part of the works and services agreement. So you've got all of that stuff, all of those materials, but at this particular point in time, I think it'd be appropriate that we share that information so that everybody has a comfort level.
So this, not quite sure how you're going to deal with this one. We don't have any designs in front of us of what this would look like. So is it the intention of this amendment that if the zoning amendment, the third reading is passed, that this will be come at a later date to council? Is that the idea? I don't want to hold the project up because we're going to wait another 3 months for a landscaping plan.
Thank you, Councillor Fascio. I think CEO Cook might be able to shed some procedural light on this.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. So through the development permit, the landscaping would be around the lot essentially. And this landscaping plan would be the whole length of is what I understand from what Mayor Tallon and Councillor Swinebands are speaking to, is that it would be more of a linear landscaping plan that would hopefully mirror what we're going to see on the west side of Lillooet when we come back with our community improvement program, or plan in the future. The intent would be that it would be a conditional approval. Now, council has the ability to make it to their approval if they would wish to do so. But certainly all the items that need to be addressed beyond this, the developer can start working on them. And once the the landscaping plan has been prepared, it can come back to council for their input.
Thank you, CEO. Councillor Fascio.
Thank you. Thanks for that clarification. I'll use the Aqua. Is it Aqua, the new condo on the corner of St. Alice? Their landscaping, I think, has turned out very well behind the parking lot. I mean, there's got to be a back to a hotel or a building somewhere. You can't put it up in the air somewhere. I mean, just that these developers have done what most developers find very difficult to do, is that they have found and beyond the amount of parking that's required. And if it takes 3 floors, it takes 3 floors. I mean, you can't have 50-foot trees planted just to hide the 3 floors. I mean, yes, it's got, knowing the type of development that this is going to turn out, I'm assuming it's going to be a very well designed landscaping at the back of Lillooet there. But you'll never be able to hide the whole building. And I say the Aqua Shores is a good example of when we do that west side of Lillooet, how we will continue with that boulevard that would look extremely pleasant for everybody. But I'm just talking on this one issue at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fascio. I learned several meetings ago that I could actually make motions. So I would like to make a motion that A be amended to include landscaping. So it would read, applicant enter into a works and services agreement to address the servicing of the site and frontage improvements to include sidewalk, curb, landscaping, and gutter from Maple Street to Hot Springs Avenue on Lillooet Avenue. Is there a seconder to that? Seconded by Councillor Jackson. Any further discussion on the motion now that it's clarified? Councillor Schweinbens.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Talon. Thank you for the motion. I think it's an important one. Like I said, I think these 3 open parking lots is the Achilles heel of this project. We need to do what we can to vertically screen it. If there's not going to be an architectural solution with murals or screening, then we need to somehow take the eye away from this from the back and from all the exposed cars and the exposed parking lot. And I think vertical trees, they don't need to be 50 feet tall, 15, 20-foot trees, nicely spaced, at least behind this building. We don't need it all the way down the street, but at least behind this building where the parking garage is. I think that's what's required for everybody to feel better about this project. So I support your motion.
Councillor Vital.
Thank you, Mayor Talon. Through you to our planning consultant, I agree that landscaping plans are usually included under the works and services agreement, but I have no problem in specifying it under A. But just for clarification for myself, is it then normal for a developer to hire a landscaping consultant of some kind? I don't think, I certainly don't have the expertise to say, yes, let's put up 50 pine trees. Can you provide anything on that? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Vital. Planning consultant.
Thank you, thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, there is landscaping architects out there that do this sort of work. And yes, we've done it in the past where we've just incorporated the landscaping plan into the works and services agreement based upon what the landscaping architect or the design company, whoever it was, whatever it was that they were doing.
Thank you, planning consultant. Any further discussion on this motion to amend the A section? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? And that carries unanimously. Corporate officer, the next section we can consider, please.
So item B in the recommendation is that the 2 sites are consolidated into a single lot.
Can I have a motion to that effect? Motion by Councillor Swinebans, seconded by Councillor Jackson. Discussion on this part. Councillor Vital.
Thank you, Mayor Talon. Once again, through you to our planning consultant. What is the benefit of having the 2 sites combined into one? Thank you.
This is standard practice when you have a development that goes across 2 properties. You try to bring them all onto one lot so they can do a consolidation. It's a very simple process. You just, if they have the same 2 plan numbers on Lot A and Lot B, they can tootle down to the LTSA office and talk to the registrar about just removing that interior lot line so that it's one lot. And if you ever get into quarter sales or you're going to sell the units or whatever, then you know exactly that everything is on one side, not cut down the middle. Because you could end up with a property line going through the middle of somebody's unit. So on one side it would be Lot A, the other side would be Lot B, and then it just makes for an administrative nightmare.
Thank you. That's helpful. And is it normally then, if it's a legal matter, then that's up to the developer to absorb that cost? Thank you.
Yes, it is. All of these are all absorbed by the developer, which is standard operating practice. This is a similar exercise that we did when we went through 511 Lillooet.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Talon.
Councillor Swinebans.
Thank you, Mayor Talon. I've been wanting to ask this question, and I now seems like a good time because we're talking about putting the two sites together. But a question perhaps for our finance manager. I'm trying to visualize the benefits to the village for this, and I'm wondering if perhaps our financial officer could provide some estimation on new tax-based benefits. Are they going to participate in the RMI fund? Are they going to the ACCs and DCCs? What is the financial benefit for the village? I think we can probably get this out of the way with item B here.
CAO to you and staff as necessary.
Thank you, Your Worship. So we'll start with the tax base, like what are the contribution it would be to the municipality. Very difficult to say because it's based on value. We can see, I could get Scott to do a rough calculation, but it would be rough, and I don't think it's fair to set an expectation of what kind of return we're going to see. But certainly with the large, multi-tens of $1 building, we're going to see the land value increase significantly. Then of course we're going to see the property tax mimic that. Now speaking to the RMI, that is a part of the hotel tax, the old hotel tax. And again, it's all based on usership. So it is a 3% tax that is, again, is going to be based on what the value of what the rental rate is. So it's a percentage sliding scale, very difficult to answer. But certainly it will contribute to the overall contribution to the RMI program because it's going to be 70 units. You can compare it to other hotels in the community. And then there was one more, forgive me, what was the third one? DCCs, yes. So the DCCs are based on a square foot basis on what the unit sizes are. And again, very difficult to calculate that without final plans when it comes to the village as a building permit. But I can assure you it's going to be many hundreds of thousands of dollars that will be contributed to each one of our DCCs.
Thank you, CAO. Councillor Jackson.
Thank you, Worship. Maybe I could just elucidate a little bit. Before we got the RMI and the hotel tax, the village was not in the position to do very much, and we needed a lot to be done. Where the plaza is right now was an old garage. There was no landscaping. The beach was rotting away. Pretty soon we were going to lose it. The wastewater plant, all of them were in real trouble. So with the RMI money especially, we were able to begin to use that money to develop Esplanade, the beach, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We could not have done that without it. And I just took a look on the last 202 to 223 financial statements, and I think if my numbers are right, we've got about $2 million in RMI money. Right now, the last one I looked at had 1.87 million left, but there'll be money out of that coming out. Now, this is a huge thing for this community, and our hotel, which is, we hope maybe will be built, is going to provide not only jobs, but a solid tax base. And by doing this, we've been able to keep our tax rates down in this village, and everybody has benefited. So I think we just have to look at the positive side of things because these don't come along very often, and we all know right now in the big picture, capital is very difficult to get, and if we let it slip out of our fingers, it may take a long time. Thank you for allowing me to speak, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. That's very helpful. Any further discussion on this B section? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor of B, and that continues. Corporate Officer, the next part.
The next part is item C. So the village's receipt and acceptance of a report prepared by a competent professional with at least 10 years of professional experience and accepted by the village that addresses an estimation on the demand to be generated for water and sewer services. an analysis of the existing community water and sewer systems, outlining options available for supply and delivery of water and provision of sewer services, estimation of the volume of additional surface drainage that could be generated, and options available for on-site retention, absorption, collection, storage, and dispersal, in addition to exploring potential for rainwater recycling, and identifies new capital works required for the proposed development for water, sewer and drainage systems and their cost and potential funding sources.
Thank you, Corporate Officer. Could I have a motion to that effect? Moved by Councillor Jackson, seconded by Councillor Schweinbenz. Discussion on that element. Councillor Schweinbenz.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Talon. Item number 3, estimation of the additional surface drainage. I'm wondering if we could incorporate, as part of landscaping, it's already been mentioned, some rain gardens. There's going to be a lot of runoff from the roof from this, and perhaps rain gardens or vertical gardens are an idea that has been accepted in new architecture. Vertical gardens, they absorb water, they absorb sun, they cool down buildings, they cool down the surrounding area. Maybe that's something that we could look at in item number 3. I'm not sure if that's open for consideration, but just an idea. And the other item I want to talk about is I've heard from local residents that live along the waterfront and businesses particularly, and that is during the building process. There's concern about disruption with traffic flow. Some of the businesses might be disrupted quite a bit. So I just want to see if there's a way that we can mitigate some of the building disruptions that may occur. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Schweinbenz. Maybe we'll take this in your comments in 2 pieces. CEO Cook, can you speak to, I think the first part, the rain garden element, and then we'll deal with construction and those things.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, you did mention earlier the rain garden thought, and I would look to the developer's consultant to come to the village with suitable options. We don't really want to guide them in such a way that would, we would prefer to work with them. But certainly these types of comments are very useful, and we have the developers in person today, and they'll be able to refer back to this video and see the concerns of council, and hopefully they come back with some suitable options for rain gardens and or other options. To speak to the construction side of things, we had 2 very large sites that were constructed at 120 Esplanade and another one at 470 Esplanade over the last number of years. We did see some traffic challenges nearing the final stages of the larger development at 120 Esplanade, which resulted in some road closures because they needed to use some fairly large cranes. Thankfully, the resort hotel worked with the developer and the contractor to divert traffic through there. So the disruption was minimized. Certainly, throughout the construction process, if there's any concerns from residents or businesses or anything like that, they can contact the village office, and we can refer them to either the consultant team or developer or contractor.
Thank you, CEO Cook. Could you clarify that are permits required for placing a crane on the road for positioning stuff? And if so, does it make a difference if the crane is on Lillooet versus, I hope not Esplanade, because I don't know if there's enough room. Who approves this, and are there permits as construction proceeds that go from time to time through the various phases of construction?
Yes, thank you very much, Your Worship, through you to council. The process is that they would apply to the village office for if it was going to be a lane closure or a road closure. We would work with them and ensure they had the appropriate traffic management plan, appropriate insurance in place, and also deposits if there were going to be any risk of damage to any infrastructure, whether it be a sidewalk or anything like that. Now, it's obviously not our desire to close roads, and certainly with it being one way and that through that corridor, it would create challenges if we had to close on Esplanade. I would encourage all construction and delivery of materials to enter the site through Lillooet. Sometimes you can't avoid that, and if there's a small closure, then we would ensure with through social media and our website and signage that we would advise the public that there was a closure.
Thank you, CAO. So I'm understanding that those kind of things are permitted as construction phases proceeds, and it's done on a request-by-request basis. Okay. Councillor Vital. Oh, I'm sorry. Maybe I'm... Okay, Councillor Vital. And I'll
Thank
get to
you,
Councillor
Mayor
Thatcher.
Talon, and through you to our corporate officer or to our CAO. I also do believe that we do have a bylaw or policy in place that stipulates start times for construction. Does it also stipulate an end time or?
CAO or corporate officer?
I can add to that. Thank you, Your Worship, through you to council. The start time is 8 a.m. and the end time is 10 p.m.
Thank you, CAO. Councillor Vital.
Thank you, Mayor Talon.
Councillor Fascio.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just like to point out that these sort of points are something that we have to leave to the professional people. I mean, they got to use their savvy a bit if they're going to start stopping traffic or making upsetting the businesses anyway. But these things happen. I mean, it happened with the Aquadel. It happened with the other condo. The Esplanade was closed off for several days, on and off, when they were building Aquadel there. So the entrance for people coming to the hotel had to use the rear end. These things happen, but most of the work was done by traffic coming on Lillooet, which is the obvious. But I'm sure there could be times when the portion of Esplanade there will be closed off, and there are businesses there, and one of the businesses belongs to the developers, so they obviously have this in mind. So I think there's something that has to be left to our staff and to the contractors if this development goes through. I mean, it's a common sense type of thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Baccio. Councillor Swinburns.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the consideration in discussing this because the Aquashores, yes, it did stop traffic for a while, and that development went on for a long time. It went on for 3.5 years or more. I'm not sure exactly. I'm glad my store wasn't down in that area because it was a big disruption, and that's hard for small businesses, and that has to be taken into consideration. So I hope that the applicant understands that stores beyond the applicant's address, they need to be accessible. And I don't understand that for day here, it's going to be clogged up. But these things do impact small businesses, and we need to keep that in mind. Even the new park that we've built that is opening up tomorrow, on Friday, sorry, there was disruption there. I've heard people say that they can't walk along there like they normally do, and there was several spots of parking that were taken out of commission for several months. So I'm glad that we're discussing this, and I hope the applicant takes that into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Swinburns. Any further discussion on the B item? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? And that carries unanimously. Sorry, that was the C item. The D item, corporate officer.
Item D is the village's receipt and acceptance of the following: a traffic impact study that provides estimates on the number of additional vehicle trips per day. In the case of phase development by each phase, the impact report must identify any highway upgrading, reconstruction, reconfiguration, or expansion that may be necessary to accommodate the current or any additional vehicle trips per day to be generated by the proposed development, including the construction of or alterations to intersections, turning lanes, merge lanes, traffic lights, and pull-out area, and a cost estimate to perform the works and services. A crime prevention through environmental design report. A report outlining how this development will be reducing their overall carbon imprint, and a sunshade study reflecting various dates and times.
I have a motion to that effect, moved by Councillor Jackson, seconded by Councillor Vital. Discussion on this part. Councillor Vital.
Thank you, Mayor Talon. Just through you to our planning consultant. Just for the benefit maybe of the gallery and residents that are watching on Zoom, I'm not sure everybody is aware of the process for the crime prevention through environmental design. It's a relatively newer concept, so if you could just take some time, Mr. Cossey, and explain what's included in that report. Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Cossey.
Thank you, Your Worship. Actually, SEPTED's been around for, 20, 25 years now. It's what it is just somebody comes in and examines a building to see how they can make, or the area and the surrounding areas, to see how they can mitigate potential crime. For example, instead of having shrubs that are growing all the way up, maybe they prune them up, 6 feet up or something to that effect, so that you can see in, or you use the lights in certain strategic areas. That's what the whole purpose is to reduce the potential for crime. That's what the SEPTED does.
Thank you, Mr. Cossey. I guess that would also include minimizing any alleyways or whatever that would be incorporated into the
Yes,
building.
dark areas. Or areas where somebody can jump out. All the bad stuff.
Thank you, Mr. Cossey. Thank you, Mayor Talon.
Thank you, Councillor Vital, and the explanation, our planning consultant. Any other comments on this? I think I saw a hand. Councillor Swinbanks.
Thank you, Mayor Talon. There's 4 items under section D. I'd like to add a 5th, if I may. In looking at some of the language and guidelines that the APC had discussed, the word architectural variation and aesthetic variation comes up continuously on every single page of the architectural guidelines or design guidelines 1.39. This plan, if some of you have seen it, has a west wall and in fact an east wall as well, which are very long and very high, and they're mono brick sort of look. So I just think that there's some sort of aesthetic variation that we can do there. So I would like to add a 5th section to this to state that they should plan to include aesthetic variations for the long and high walls.
So I'm not sure I completely understand. I'm wondering if can our planning consultant shed some light on what this actually is, so I can understand what that phrase aesthetic variations means in this context?
I'm sorry, what was the term again, please?
So
Councillor Schweinbens was talking about a motion to say something to the effect of a 5, a V, to include aesthetic variations, and I'm unclear what that means.
It's variations that sometimes the architect may look at when they're doing things, but we cannot do that at this particular point in time to those walls, because the development permit was conditionally approved in September. So we cannot change it at this particular point in time. I would caution council from making sure that we don't do that. We can change it if they come back in and say, we want to change this color from red to yellow, then we can revisit the whole situation again. But at this particular point in time, we've set the goalposts and we've said, this is what you have to do and you have to meet these conditions.
Thank you, planning consultant. So it seems like it's the suggestion, Councillor Schweinbens, is that that amendment would be out of scope from land use. It would be something not land use, out of scope.
Then perhaps I'm confused. On the in the guidelines, there's things that are stated such as the prime convention or prime prevention through environmental design area. There's outlining how they can reduce their overall carbon imprint. That's in the design guidelines. Sunshade study is in the guidelines, and also, and I'll quote, attention must be paid to the length, proportions, and architectural articulation that results from the variation of use. Variation is the most critical characteristic in terms of heights, facade relief, step backs, color, and detailing. In almost every section here, it says variation is critical. New development must, anyways, visual breaks, visual articulation, architectural and aesthetic variation is in here, as are all these other ones. So I'm not sure why we can't have something that council can look at, because if you look on, and CAO provided diagram 302 to us today, the west-facing wall is 6 stories of brick. People are going to stand outside Sugar Rush and see a canyon of a wall, and without any variation. And I think it would behoove the applicant to add some, if not architectural variation, then some visual variation. This is a village of artists, perhaps different colored bricks in certain areas, some pattern to the bricks, something to break up the gray canyon that we're going to be looking at when we stand outside Sugar Rush.
Councillor Swinebands, are you putting forward a motion of some kind? Could you articulate that and see if we can?
Sorry,
advance it?
I'll repeat my motion. And this is just the 5th item. So it's under item D. Instead of having 4 items there, I would like up them. So I'll just read this out. The village's receipt and acceptance of the following. Number 5, a plan to include aesthetic variations on the long and high walls.
Is there a seconder to that motion?
No, I'm not second that one. No. Oh, I'll
Oh,
wait.
Councillor Swinebands moved to include
Oh, I'm not
a
second.
5
No,
of
I'm not
the.
second. I'll wait for a seconder before I say anything.
Okay. Is there a seconder to that motion? Seconded by Councillor Jackson. Now we have a motion to amend as proposed. Discussion. Councillor Fasher.
Thank you, Your Worship. I believe the planning consultant has just informed us that at the development permit stage, it cannot be changed. Am I correct, or am I going deaf in one ear?
That is correct, Your Worship. You should not change it at this particular point in time because you've already set what the goalposts were, and the conditional approval was done on September the 9th, 2024. If, however, the consultant or the developer comes back and says, instead of having this as wood or whatever, we'd like to change it like what they did in 120 Esplanade. They changed it 3 or 4 times, so we can go back and rehash the development permit requirements again. At this particular point in time, we're just arbitrarily doing this. You have to be careful on that at this particular point in time, because this is where we get into a lot of issues when we just start changing the goalposts for development. We're asking them to move forward this way, and then at the last minute, we're saying, well, wait a minute, now we want this. The courts usually take a very dim look at that sort of perspective from municipalities.
Thank you, Mr. Cossey. Just like to finish off, Your Worship, that Mr. Cossey just said, and this has happened, I've dealt with this many times over the years, the developer can come back and say, well, I want to change that wall to a different design or color because whatever, and then council has to pass a resolution to allow that. So that may happen at some point, who knows? But I cannot accept, adopt, passing this motion after it's just been explained to us about the development permit. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fasher. I think I share the concern of creating uncertainty with council decisions on the development permit and having them potentially seen as undone or not being as solid or as confidence-inspiring at this stage. Any further discussion on this motion?
So I just,
Councillor
sorry,
Swinebands, go ahead.
sorry, Mayor Talon. So if not now, when? I guess is what I'm asking. If, you know, I spoke to dozens and dozens of people along the waterfront and business people, and this is an issue that's come up. How can we compel them to perhaps get something more imaginative on those walls? And I guess maybe, hopefully the message is taken, but I think wouldn't it be easier now to put this in as something that we can review in the future, or staff can at least review, than us having to come back and redo this? Isn't it easier to do this right now? This is my point.
CAO Cook.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you to Councillor Swinebens. I think we've heard from it's pretty clear from our planning consultant that this is not the time to deal with this. I think that if there is as it was mentioned, interest of the developer when the building is constructed to make a change, or even partway through construction, if he wants to change colors, he'll have to come back to council to get permission to make those changes. I mean, if there was in the future, maybe they wanted to put a mural on there or something, that's a different application. It would basically be a sign application, and then it would go through that process.
Thank you, CAO. I am a little bit sympathetic, Councillor Schweinbenz, as I said, opening this. You and I are coming midstream on this, and the answer to when in your question, I think, was September, when this matter was before council. I'd like to call the vote on the motion to add the V as proposed. All in favor of the motion? All opposed? And the motion fails. I'd like to return. Is there any other motions or further discussion on the D item? Councillor Schweinbenz?
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. Item 4 there, the sunshade study. I just got it today, and it's pretty fine print, so I don't know if I'm exactly correct, but I don't think that they've shown any studies in July and August. So when the sunbathers are out on the beach and out on the promenade, I didn't see anything in July and August. I could be wrong. CAO may correct me.
CAO Cook.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Correct me if I'm wrong, Ken. I apologize if I am incorrect. We haven't actually received the report to date. All that was just a presentation during the public hearing. So again, we haven't seen the report, so there could be additional months in the more fulsome report.
Thank you, CAO Cook. So the report hasn't been received nor accepted, so it's future work yet.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Councillor
Mayor
Schweinbenz.
Tallon, thank you. Sorry, item 3, sort of to beat this. In the design guidelines, it mentions solar panels on the roof, that sort of thing. Reducing overall carbon footprint. I'd like to see this applicant propose to us some ideas as to how they're going to reduce their carbon footprint, and maybe have some better designs and technologies that will bring us into the future technologies when electricity is going to be more expensive, natural gas will be more expensive. So it'd be nice to see some meat on the bones with regards to item number 3. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Schweinbenz. If I read this, my plain reading is that is also work the proponent would need to do, is prepare a report outlining what it says, how the development will reduce the overall carbon imprint. So I believe that's what we can expect. I see our planning consultant wants to add in.
Thank you, Your Worship. The greenhouse gas emissions, we also now have in the new OCP, we have development permit guidelines. And if this application is not part of that, the new OCP, because they applied when it was still bylaw 864. So what we're doing in this point in time is trying to get as much as we can from the current development permit that's in the current OCP into this application. And these are the same words that we used with respect to 511 Lillooet, so that we could reduce our greenhouse gas concept. How they do that, that's fine. We're not here to dictate at this particular point in time because we don't have that authority. We can just generally say we'd like to do this and see what they come back with.
Thank you, planning consultant. Any last comments on this D section? Councillor Swainlands.
I assume we're going to come to a vote soon, a final vote. And I just wanted to say a few words. Thank you, first of all, thank you for this discussion. I think, you know, the more that we discuss these things, the better the project will be, and the better we feel about it, and the better the community will feel about it. Me personally, I was less concerned with making the right decision, but making the decision right. So I went out and did a lot of research. I spoke to all the local all the residents, a lot of the residents along the waterfront here, a lot of the business people, people who live on Miami River Drive, who felt that they might have had visual disturbances from that. And in the end, most people were either ambivalent or very supportive of the project. I think this is a win-win for the village. You know, and I had to look at the values that I ran on in this campaign as well, with regards to the environment and the betterment of the community, fair process in government. And I think this set the bar for me, or it satisfied all those for me. I think it's going to be a great project. These people have been part of the community for a long time, given to the community. I had some questions and things that I wanted to change. Alas, it might be too late for some of them, but I congratulate, if it's successful, I congratulate them on a fantastic concept and idea, and I wish them luck.
Councillor Fascio.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just to round up here, other than the comments that we had at the public hearing, nobody's called me in regards to the development, and I haven't heard anything from the business community in regards to the development one way or the other. I mean, this, as Councillor Jackson alluded to earlier on, this will bring a much needed RMI money into the village. It will create more jobs in the community, which is very good. And also having another hotel will hopefully help to get larger groups to come to Harrison. We'll have more rooms, and which would definitely benefit hopefully all the businesses in the community as well. Of course, the increased tax base. Now, when the planner showed us the height at the meeting, it didn't look that tremendously out of line with the Echo Beach in height. So, but anyway, that's in the eyes of the beholder. The multi-family difference when we talk about donating to amenities is much different to hotels. Hotels are going to be paying a commercial tax, not a residential tax. Remember that. And also the taxes for the other services, water and sewer as well. So overall, I think it's going to be a great benefit to the community, because Harrison is becoming the place to be. And the way it's going with the Canadian dollar, the more is promoted to get them to get all those people over the line to come this way, the better, because the businesses are going to get busy as time goes on in Harrison. There's some other news I've heard, which I can't disclose at the moment, about another property in the community, but when I'm allowed to say something, I will say something about that. So it's a win for the community, and I wish the developers good luck moving forward. There's a lot for them to address, as pointed out this evening, but overall in their own businesses, the way they have conducted themselves in the past 12 years and the amount of millions, not thousands, they've spent on their properties to make them look aesthetically actually beautiful is just amazing. So, and very good corporate citizens, as many of our businesses are in our community. But again, thank you for allowing me to say those few words.
Thank you, Councillor Fascio. Councillor Vital.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. Just a couple of comments. I had discussion with two residents regarding the proposal, and both of them commented to me that they would rather see this type of a proposal, a new hotel, because they felt that it was time for another hotel in Harris, and they would rather see that than at this point in time, another condo development. And I'm particularly happy to see the proponents including additional parking stalls, because we all know parking is at an absolute premium here. So kudos to the proponents for including that in the proposal. I think it will be a great addition to Esplanade, and there are still many stages to go through before any ground or shovels are put in the ground. But I certainly do support the concept of this development. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Vital. With all the conversations, corporate officer, have we moved the D and accepted that, or is that our next item? That's moving the D portion unamended, I presume. I don't recall any changes to D being accepted. I'd like to call the vote on the D portion of the zoning. All in favor? And that carries unanimously. And I think when we started this, we were planning to do a full wrap-up and motion for the full thing with whatever amendments we approved. And I think there's one to include landscaping in A. Is that correct? Can I have a motion to that effect? Moved by Councillor Jackson, seconded by Councillor Schweinbenz. I think if this project goes ahead and is built, I'd be very pleased to see it. I think it'll really change the character and the look on that block. And I look forward to the improvements actually on Lillooet and tying in sidewalks and curbs from the pool to Memorial Hall here. I think that'd be a big improvement because nothing is there today. So I think this is the right time and the right project for the village. Further discussion on the motion? Calling the question, no discussion, all in favor, and that carries unanimously. Next item of business, corporate officer.
Next item is item B, report from corporate officer regarding indemnification amendment bylaw number 1215, 2024.
Please proceed.
Thank you. In 2023, Council adopted indemnification bylaw number 1190, which provides for the indemnification of council members and village staff in the case of legal proceedings brought against a municipal official in the performance of their duties. Staff recently reviewed the bylaw and noted that the term willful misconduct is defined in the interpretation section of the bylaw but not mentioned elsewhere. It's common for indemnification bylaws to contain a clause which states that the municipal official named in the legal proceedings would not be indemnified if the claim is a result of their gross negligence, dishonesty, or willful misconduct. As the term willful misconduct is defined in the bylaw, it's believed that the intent at the time was to include such a clause. However, it was inadvertently omitted. Additionally, in 2000, Council adopted indemnification bylaw number 760. This bylaw is outdated and contains references to repealed legislation and should have been repealed when the new indemnification bylaw was adopted. It should be noted that the original bylaw, number 760, contains a clause which states that the village will not indemnify officers if they have been grossly negligent or acted contrary to the terms and conditions of their employment or to an order by a supervisor. Attached to this report for Council's consideration is indemnification amendment bylaw number 1215, 2024, which amends the current bylaw by adding a willful misconduct and gross negligence clause and repealing indemnification bylaw number 760. So there are two recommendations. The first one is that indemnification amendment bylaw number 1215, 2024 be introduced and given first reading.
Move, Mayor Talon.
Moved by Councillor Fascio, seconded by Councillor Schweinbenz. Discussion on that. Oh, no discussion on first, right? Correct. I'm going to really benefit from the workshop in the new year teaching me procedures. Thank you. Um, That takes us to, what's the second, is there a second one, second motion? Sorry.
Sorry, if I could request to call the question
Oh,
on
call
the
the
first one.
question.
Thank you.
All in favor of the first reading? And that passes unanimously. And
The second
part.
recommendation is that indemnification bylaw, amendment bylaw number 1215-2024 be given second and third readings.
Thank
So
you.
moved.
Moved by
Mayor
Councillor
Towne.
Vital, seconded by Councillor Jackson. Discussion on this? I do have a few comments on this. I think it's not the intent or the concept behind these amendments. I had a chance to read carefully the actual text that was drafted in to amend the bylaw, and it left me a little, it was hard for me to understand it, and I'm not sure I took away a simple plain meaning. And I'm going to suggest that we amend that, the motion, to just have a second reading and allow staff to double check with council and whoever else is needed to make sure the wording is precise. Indemnification law and these kind of things need to be quite precise and worded accurately. And the negatives used in the bylaw left me questioning whether or not it would actually stand. So I want to make sure that if we do this right and we get the proper advice. Councillor Vital?
Thank you, Mayor Towne. Then I believe it would be appropriate for a motion to refer back to staff for further clarification and perhaps consultation with yourself on it before it comes back for third and final.
So I will move that we amend the motion that it be given second and third reading to read that it be given second reading and referred back to staff for further review and clarification. Seconded by Councillor Fascio. Discussion on that amendment to the motion. Councillor Swinebens.
Oh, thank you, Mayor Talon. Just that I support the motion. I just wonder if we need to get a lawyer involved because this is going to be lawyers over lawyers.
I think referring it back to staff will allow them to make sure that we've dotted our i's and crossed our t's and that what is ultimately brought before us is clear. No further discussion. Call a vote on the motion to amend the motion. All in favor? That carries unanimously, which then leaves us with, I believe, the motion to, do we need to refer? Is this a separate motion? Help me here, corporate officer, what we need to do next.
Thank you. Normally what I do is the main motion as amended. So that was the first motion that it be given second and third reading was moved by Councillor Vital, seconded by Councillor Jackson. So now vote on the main motion as amended.
Vote on the main motion as amended. We don't need a seconder for that. It's no further discussion. We'll call the vote on that amended motion. All in favor? And that passes unanimously. Next item of business.
Moving on to item 14, which is new business from Councillor Schweinbenz regarding pesticide use.
Councillor Swinebens.
Oh, thank you. Corporate officer, I wasn't aware that I needed to read this, but I will. It's fine. Would you like me to read out the item, the whole page, or have you guys read it? No? Okay. So, thank you for everybody for considering this. This actually came up a few years ago. Your former colleague, Councillor Palmer, brought this up a few years ago, and it's been something that I've wanted to do as well. And I'm not sure that we're ever going to be able to completely eliminate synthetic pesticides from our environment, but I think we at least need to direct staff to take a look at some of our options, and this is what I'm intending to do here. So I'm looking for your support on that. There's a specific Japanese knoxweed that we need to take a look at. Okay, I'll go one by one, sorry.
Sorry to interrupt, Councillor Swinebens. Just if you want, we can you can move the recommendation,
Let's do
seek a
that.
seconder, and then we can discuss it. You're moving that. Seconder to the motion, seconded by Councillor Jackson. So now discussion. And Councillor Swinebans.
So a couple of things here. Just looking at directing staff to try to look at reduction in pesticide use, especially with regards to something called Roundup or glyphosates around the water. Also, part of the environmental committee, we'd like to take a look at this Japanese knotweed, among other things that we want to accomplish. So we're hoping that you can direct us to work with the Fraser Valley Invasive Species Coalition to create a map and try to get this weed under control and in ways that maybe doesn't need glyphosate to be used. And to direct staff, again, to look at ways to reduce pesticide use.
Thank you, Councillor Swinebans. I do have a couple things on this. Your motions have 4 parts. The Environmental Committee work with the Fraser Valley Invasive Species, identifying. I think that's a good idea. The other 3 ones I'm wrestling with a little bit more, particularly the reporting system, permits for using glyphosate, and a bylaw for non-essential pesticides. I think a system to report knotweed on private land, I'm not sure there's much value in that, or I question the value of it for Harrison Hot Springs. We have a bylaw in place right now, Property Maintenance Bylaw 1072/2015, that speaks to invasive plants and property owners' responsibilities. And it reads in part, every person who owns or occupies real property must, 1, ensure that the brushing of vegetation and weed or invasive species removal is completed regularly as to alleviate or stop the overgrowth of same. The bylaw also speaks to orders that can be made to property owners to remove and clean invasive species. I think letting invasive species get out of control is already a violation of our existing bylaws, and I question whether anyone in the village would self-report that they are in violation of our bylaw, because I think that's the effect of it. So I'm not sure there's value. For reporting invasive species, the Fraser Valley Regional District has a report invasive weeds phone number, 604-702-5496, or weeds@fvrd.ca if you see knotweed or any invasive species. The province also has a reporting hotline, and they have apps that you can put on your phone. And if you don't have a smartphone, you can use an online form or link or email them, invasive.plants@gov.bc.ca. If you attach a photo to your email, these reports get reviewed by invasive species specialists who will coordinate follow-up activities with someone who identifies. Glyphosate is tricky. Gets a lot of attention in the news. I know right now my cursory view of this is glyphosate draws the attention of many, many levels of government. The federal government, Health Canada, has stated that, and this is their review, and this is a re-review because they evaluate these things periodically. The levels of glyphosate to which people living in Canada may be exposed do not cause any harmful effects when glyphosate-containing products are used properly and according to product label instructions. Environment Canada, or Health Canada, goes on to say, no pesticide regulatory authority in the world currently considers glyphosate to be a cancer risk to humans at the levels at which humans are currently exposed. The US EPA found that there's no risks of concern to human health when glyphosate is used in accordance with its current label. The EPA also found that glyphosate is unlikely to be a human carcinogen. BC Integrated Pest Management Act and its regulations regulate the use of pesticides, herbicides, including glyphosate, in the whole province, including the village. And the province's of BC's Weed Control Act designate knotweeds as a noxious weed and has a special meaning under that legislation. It also means that all property owners are legally obligated to control it when it's on their land. Regarding use of glyphosate, the Fraser Valley Regional District, as I understand it, requires knotweed to be treated with glyphosate along water bodies between 1 and 10 meters on the shore of any water body. That's the rule. There's no other option, is to use glyphosate. That's directed. And a quick scan of the internet reveals the challenge in treating and eradicating Japanese knotweed. Treating with glyphosate is the only method proven effective in eradicating knotweed, sadly, because I think most people would like to dig it up. I've tried, it doesn't work. You'd like to cut it down? I've tried, it doesn't work. It is an unbelievable plant. The roots go down easily 20 feet, and if you miss the smallest, I think they call it rhizomes, it'll start growing all over again. So herbicides are the only proven effective way of actually eliminating and eradicating knotweeds, sadly. I'm a little bit worried about staff time and capacity limits. It's not that I have confidence in staff to do all the work and actually dig into it if it was a priority for the village, but I'm not sure the 3 points, the reporting system, the obligations to get a permit to treat, to use glyphosate, or drafting a bylaw for non-essential pesticides and herbicides. I think that'll be a challenge at best to know what non-essential is, because we, by definition, be defining what an essential pesticide or herbicide is. So I think we're going to have a lot of effort spent there with maybe little outcome, and I see a lot of oversight by other levels of government, including the Fraser Valley Regional District. So I think the advisory, for me, the advisory committee, absolutely, environmental advisory committee, work with Fraser Valley invasive species. We should know where our problems are, and then we can start addressing them. I think that's very valuable, but I'm not in favor of the other 3 points. Councillor Fascio.
Thank you, Your Worship. Ditto. I have the same comments here in regards to the what's in place, what has happened, what the regional district does. They do the mapping. They map all the electoral areas, and we do come under electoral area C, which covers the whole lake and all the way up to Harrison Mills, including the village. So they do have a mapping service. I think this is something that should be tabled and discussed at a later date. And by all means, the environmental committee could ask for a representative of the Fraser Valley Regional District, who are the experts in this, to have somebody come and speak to them, do a presentation. I think that's a good way to start, so they have more knowledge of what is actually done by the regional district and why you have to use. Many moons ago, before I came to Canada, I worked on a farm in an area in England where we went down 150 feet. Thought we got rid of it, we didn't. It's a terrible plant. I've seen people on their hands and knees outside Harrisburg when it was first built, digging every day, trying to dig it up, but it doesn't work. So what the mayor has just read out is absolutely correct, from my opinion. And I sit on the regional district, and they do a great job. You see the signs on the boulevards when they do the spraying, where they have to do it. So that's my suggestion. I think this should be tabled, and then that the FVRD representative could come or one of their agents could come and speak to the environmental committee to really get it started. Maybe then come back with some suggestions to the council. Thank you. Yes, I would like to put a motion to table this.
Motion from Councillor Fascio to table this motion, pending further, I guess, more discussion later. That's seconded by Councillor Jackson. Discussion on the motion to table.
Yeah, I think I'm running out of batteries here. Yeah, thank you for the suggestion. I think it's a good one. You came prepared. Thank you, Mayor Talon. the spirit of my suggestion was to move into a direction where we're reducing the amount of pesticides we're using in the village. And I think everybody agrees that's a good thing to do. This is what people are telling me they want. I think, and that's why I just wanted to direct staff to take a look at some of our options. That was the intent in the spirit of the motion. But to table it and to maybe get the environmental committee to bring in an expert and talk about it, or to have staff to research it, I think that's a great idea. And I think CAO wants to say something.
CAO Cook?
Thank you, Your Worship. Sorry, everything was said. I just wanted to further thank Mayor Tallon for recognizing that the burden to staff would have been quite large for this reporting process and such. I do want to advise council, which I know existing councillors are aware, that since my time coming here in early 2020, I've been working with the Fraser Valley Invasive Species Society year over year. And they do come in and they do treat the knotweed that we have throughout town. And we do have a report from 2023. And perhaps when the advisory committee does get an opportunity to speak with them, we could look at updating that report. Thank you.
Thank you, CAO. Councillor Vital.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. I also think it's worthwhile mentioning that treating Japanese knotweed often requires a minimum of 3 applications, and I've tried to dig it out myself, and there's a burning sensation if you're not. So it's best left up to the experts. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Vital. Yeah, I would love to find a way to get rid of Japanese knotweed that was mechanical or otherwise, but I've gone on the Fraser Valley gardening thing, and these people are all organic all the time. And if you put in knotweed and help me, and the first thing they say is, buy some glyphosate, unfortunately. And they say it with regret because they wish there was another way. I'll call the vote on the motion to table this. All in favor of tabling, and that passes unanimously. Does that conclude that item once it's been tabled? Thank you. All right. Next item is
New business from Councillor Schweinbenz regarding Development Procedures Bylaw number 1090, 2016.
Thank you, Council. I'm hoping to consider this. In looking at the Development Procedure Bylaw 190 from 2016, right now we don't have a bylaw that requires that a developer or an applicant, when there's a land use change or large development, that there's a sign that's required. In all municipalities that I drive through, that I walk through, that I've lived in, this is a requirement. I think it's gotten us into some trouble in the past, I think, when citizens were unaware that there's a redevelopment or rezoning proposal happening on a certain piece of property. And I think it would behoove us to maybe direct staff to take a look at some of our options in the future. That's my intent. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Schweinbenz. There's a motion in that recommendation there. Is there a seconder to that motion? Seconded by Councillor Fascio. And I'll turn the floor over to discussion on the motion.
Just a quick comment. This is common in most municipalities, having the sign-up application to the zoning or to the OCP. Nothing's new. Now, this would be paid by the developer, the sign, obviously, I would think. Yes, not the community. Thank you. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fascio. Any further discussion on this? Our planning consultant, Ken, something to add.
Thank you, Your Worship. About a year back, the council at the time suggested that we had to look at updating all of the land use laws and related and policies. One of them that is on the list is the Development Procedures Bylaw, and we are working on it. It's in its draft form. Yes, we can put it in there that the developer pays for the sign. That putting the sign up would be a really good thing, but I would encourage that we don't just limit it to just putting in the sign, because there's other issues in there that we have to address with the passage of the proposed development approval information bylaw. All of those sorts of things also have to go into the Development Procedures Bylaw. So I just don't want us to get locked into one idea at this particular point in time.
Thank you, Mr. Kasi. No, if I read this recommendation correctly, if it goes to staff, they could bring back, as long as it deals with signs and deal with the signage for applications requiring public notice in a comprehensive way and fit it into the development procedures, that'd be great. I don't see it restricting that. I'll call the vote on the motion. All in favor? And that carries. And that takes us to questions from the public tonight. Are there any questions from the public? Please proceed.
I should explain that I moved that onto the floor because this is the only speaker that we can hear just here. The others are pointed away from us, and we really can't hear you, even in the front row, unless we have this little speaker down there. Anyway, my question is, I want to know how I can correct something in the public hearing minutes of November the 4th. If you look at page 53 of your agenda package, it's page 7 of the public hearing minutes. And the last 3 bullets of my comments here mention a building which was built as a hotel but never opened as a hotel. And I got the name of the building wrong, and I think it's important that I apologize to the owners of the Cascade building for that. It was the same developer, but it was a different building. The building I was referring to is actually the Echo Beach Resort next door on the other side of Maple Street. And the point was that the public was promised during that whole approval, just like we were promised and heard a lot about tonight, that this was going to be a hotel, creating jobs, creating taxes, creating everything. And in the end of the day, it was built as a hotel to hotel standards, small rooms, small corridors, no meeting space, no common areas. But it never opened as a hotel because they strata titled it and sold it as residential condos, substandard residential condos, mind you, but that's what happened. And the concern I raised back on November the 4th was that this could very well happen to the 72-room hotel that's proposed just down the block. And what I was hoping was the council would put in some language as conditions of your approvals to ensure that the building that's being built, if it does get stratified, doesn't turn into another residential condo and actually is a hotel, and you incorporate some strong language in your development approvals to make it clear that what happened at the Echo Beach Resort will not happen on the new property. So I'm apologizing to the Cascades people. One of the problems with your procedures for minute approval is that there's no opportunity for me, as a member of the public who is quoted here, to correct the minutes and say, that's not what I said. Now, I possibly did make that mistake myself on November the 4th, but under your procedure of minute approval, you do not give the public an opportunity to say, wait a second, I've been misquoted in these minutes and I want that corrected. So when you're looking at your development procedures and in fact the approval of minutes for public hearings, you might look at including some provision that the public can put up their hand and say, that's not what I said at the public hearing, and I want the record to be corrected. So that, my question is, can you please find a way to do that? Maybe correct these minutes, and instead of saying the Cascade Bay building, it should say the Echo Beach building, which is Muddy Waters, etc. And also find a way to ensure that when the public is quoted in minutes, that they have an opportunity to provide correction as necessary. Thank you.
Thank you for the clarification and the caution, and something to think about when we consider our procedures, policies in the future. Please go ahead.
Not a question, just a comment. Mayor Talent and the rest of the councilors, thank you so much for bringing civility and stability back to these council meetings. I think you guys do a wonderful job. The staff inside and outside, they also do a great job. Anytime I've had an issue, it's been taken care of. So keep up the good work. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to you all. There is no question.
Thank you for your comment. I can speak for myself. It's incredibly interesting work. It's very rewarding. And seeing the opportunities that the village has for both residents and businesses alike, and seeing those opportunities realized little bit by little bit is really rewarding and very enjoyable work. Are there any questions from people participating remotely?
Anybody on Zoom, if you have a question, please raise your hand. Doesn't look like there's any questions, Your Worship.
Motion to adjourn, seconded by Councillor Fascio, that was moved by Councillor Jackson. Discussion, seeing none, all in favor, and we are adjourned. Thank you all.